Parshas Toldot. In Parshas Toldot, we see this epic battle, Yaakov and Esav. The beginnings of this battle, the manifestation of it in the struggle for the brachas. Who was going to receive the brachas of Yitzchak? Who were going to receive those precious brachas of Yitzchak Avinu? And of course, Yaakov Avinu, he was the one that received the brachas. Esav found out and he cries out to his father, a bracha achas, do you only have my father one bracha to give? And then subsequently, Yitzchak gives Esav a bracha, and a wonderful bracha, that he should have wealth and riches. Mishmanei aretz yeh moshavecha. He's given the fat of the land, the choice real estate. Wonderful brachas. So then the question arises, ultimately, there was a bracha for Esav. So what is the struggle about? Yaakov had a bracha and Esav had a bracha. So why, to begin with, didn't Yitzchak give them both brachas? Is there a shortage of brachas to be given? Is there an inability for the tzaddik to give brachas? The people line up to tzaddikim all the time and receive. The tzaddikim give hundreds and thousands of brachas on a regular basis. Yitzchak Avinu, what was the problem here? What was the issue? Yaakov should have a bracha and Esav should have a bracha. And ultimately they both got brachas. What is this struggle over here? What is this fight about? And what is all this deception? What is all this pain and crying and resentment and hatred that Esav had for Yaakov for taking the bracha while he himself got a wonderful bracha? The Ramban explains that this was a battle for the future, for the inheritance of Avram Avinu. This was a battle over the legacy of Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu had the Haftarah, the promise from the Rebbeinu Shalom. He had that promise of Eretz Yisrael, of the Yerusha, of the Nachla. He had the promise that his children would be the nation of Hashem. The battle over here was a battle of who would inherit that Haftarah. Who would inherit the Haftarah, the promise the Rebbeinu Shalom gave to Avram Avinu, and who would be considered the Zera Avraham? Who would be considered the Zera Yitzchak? Who would be the Av? Who would be Klal Yisrael, the chosen people? And that was the battle. And yes, Esav got a bracha, but he didn't get that bracha. He got a different bracha. So let's analyze and let's go a little deeper and plumb the depths of what these brachas really mean and what is the purpose of these brachas and what is the tafkid, Yaakov's tafkid and Bnei Yaakov, Bnei Yisrael, our tafkid, and Esav's tafkid. And we know there was the difference of opinion between Yitzchak and Rivka. Who was the chosen son? Yitzchak chose Esav, Rivka chose Yaakov. And what was the purpose of that? Why did Yitzchak choose Esav? Surely he knew that Esav was an Ish Soda and Yaakov was an Ish Tam Yeshiv Ohalim. Yaakov was a Talmud Chacham, and Esav was the Ish Soda. So how could he possibly choose the Ish Soda over the Talmud Chacham who's Yeshiv Yeshiva in the Beis HaMedrash? But the pshat is that this was the tafkid of the Avos, the tafkid of Klal Yisrael. And the tafkid of Klal Yisrael was to be Mekadesh the Chaymer, the tafkid of Klal Yisrael is to be mekadosh the chayim, to take this world, the Olam Hazeh, the Olam Hagashmi, and to transform it into a davar ruchni, and infuse it with ruchnius, with spirituality. And that is Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael is to be mekadosh Olam Hazeh, be mekadosh the chayim, through our mitzvahs, through our avodah, korbanos, the Beis HaMikdash, mitzvahs, Torah, Maisim Tovim, all of this, our avodas Hashem, is to take this mundane world, to take this Olam Hazeh and elevate it, elevate ourselves, elevate our goofs, elevate the whole world, and make it into davar ruchni. The Beis HaMikdash, Makom Ashros HaShechina, was a davar gashmi that became ruchni. The korbanos or behemoths, the dam, the chelev, the basar, it all became ruchni. All of that became ruchni. The Kohen Gadol, Yom Kippurim, and the Kodesh HaKadosh. So who better to transform the Olam HaGashmi than someone who was involved in the Olam HaGashmi? Yaakov was an Ish Tam, Yoshev Aholim. He had nothing to do with this world. So how could Yaakov Avinu transform this world? Yaakov Avinu was Ish Tam, Yoshev. How could he transform this world? Who better than Esav, who was the Ish Soda? He was the Ish Soda. Now, if he would be given the brachas, and if he would be charged with this mission, he could take the Olam Hazeh, the Olam Hagashmi, he was the Ish Soda, and he could transform that and make it into Ruchni. And that was Yitzchak's cheshbon. But Rivka knew otherwise, because she heard the nevuah. She heard the nevuah, V'rav Yavod Tzoyer, from the Beis Medrash of Shem Ve'ever. She's the one that heard that nevuah, V'rav Yavod Tzoyer, that the younger one, that Yaakov Avinu, he would be the one who would be the ruler. To him would fall the brachas and the Avtach of Avram Avinu. And to him would fall the mission to be charged with transforming this world. The Ish Tam, Yoshev Aholim. And Rivka knew that. And the brachas of Yaakov Avinu, the brachas from Yitzchak, those brachas were the brachas that would enable his son to carry out this mission, Klal Yisrael to carry out this mission of transforming this world, of elevating this world. And that was the bracha that they were fighting on. Who would be the one to carry out the mission? Whose descendants would be the Am Hashem? Who would be the ultimate ruler? The ultimate ruler over this world. That was the struggle. Yes, Esav got a bracha, but a different bracha. He got a bracha of Olam Hazeh, Mishmanei Aretz Yeh Moshevecha. He had the brachas of wealth, of the Olam Hagashmi. Now, ultimately, his purpose, the bracha that he got from Yitzchak, that purpose was his reward, but also the ultimate purpose was to support and help Yaakov in Yaakov's mission. But so long as Yaakov Avinu and his descendants were engaged in that mission and were faithful and responsible to that mission, to carry out that mission, Esav's role was a subordinate role. He was a part-time player. He was in a supportive role, just supporting Yaakov and Yaakov's descendants in carrying out the primary mission. When Yaakov Avinu's children reneged on their promise, reneged on their responsibilities, then Esav assumes a primary position. But so long as Yaakov and his descendants are faithful to their responsibility, to their mission, they are primary. They inherited that bracha. And we see clearly in the Pasuk, as soon as Yaakov Avinu receives that bracha, he runs away and he goes to Lavan and he's engaged in Olam Hazeh. As soon as he receives that bracha, and he's now mandated to carry out that mission, and he's charged with that achrayus, with that responsibility, now he has the struggle in Olam Hazeh. The Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim now is struggling in Olam Hazeh with Lavan, struggling with Shechem, all the different struggles he has, and the Olam Hazeh, the struggles in Olam Hazeh, and the wealth that he amasses, and building Klal Yisrael that he has. He's now charged with that mission of being engaged in Olam Hazeh, in transforming Olam Hazeh, in being misakin, tikkun ha'olam, in eradicating the ra from Olam Hazeh, infusing it with toiv, infusing it with ruchnius. And that begins the new chapter in Yaakov Avinu's life with the mission that he's given after he receives the brachas of Yitzchak Avinu. And that's the mission that we all have. And that's the mission that we have, to bring Ruchni to Olam Hazeh, to bring Toiv in Olam Hazeh, to be Mesak in the world. We are the descendants of the Avos. And that's our mission, to be Mesak in the Welt, to elevate the world, to transform Olam Hazeh. And therefore the brachas that we are given, that the Rabbeinu Shalom gives us these brachas, and we have to be cognizant, to be aware constantly that it's for a purpose, that it's for a higher purpose. The brachas of Olam Hazeh, for the means of Olam Hazeh, that's Esav's bracha. That's Esav's bracha. Yaakov's bracha is the brachas of Olam Hazeh to serve a greater good, to serve the greater good of Avodas Hashem, of transforming the Gashmi to Ruchni. The Michtav Melio talks at great length about the brachas of Olam Hazeh. And he brings down the altar, he says, Olam Hazeh is like a very, very expensive hotel. And whatever you take, whatever you charge, the room service or whatever you take and from the hotel, they charge a fortune. It's a very, very exclusive luxury hotel that whatever's charged to your room, whatever services, it charges a fortune. And that charge will be on the cheshbon of Olam Haba. And whatever you take from Olam Hazeh, it comes with a great cost. And it's a cheshbon of Olam Haba. However, he says, Dr. Dessler Zatzal, that if someone is engaged in Tzorchei Tzibur, if someone is engaged in Tzorchei Tzibur, Harbotzas HaTorah, and being Mesak in the Welt, they remove those charges from his bill. Those room service charges are removed from his bill because he's using the brachas for what they're supposed to be used for. He's using it for tikkun ha'olam, to transform Olam Hazeh into something good, into something ruchni, to bring Torah to the Welt. Then they remove those charges from his bill. We should all be